US President Donald Trump has once again lashed out at the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, posting on social media that his termination could not come fast enough. The president's frustration comes after Powell made remarks earlier this week, warning that Trump's tariff policies risked pushing inflation and employment further away from the central bank's goals, and that the bank would await more data before changing interest rates. Since taking office in January, Trump has been pressuring the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates, citing market instability triggered by his own unilateral trade tariffs imposed on countries worldwide. Signalled a preference for patience in terms of the Fed's next interest rate move amid concerns that inflation could spike and become a persistent problem for the country due to uncertainty around tariffs. Trump, posting on Truth Social, pointed to expectations of the European Central Bank's later decision to cut interest rates by 25 basis points today, adding that the USA was getting rich on tariffs and that Powell should have lowered interest rates long ago, while threatening the chair's position. The Fed generally operates independently, something Powell has pointed to as a matter of law, and that they act without consideration of political or other extraneous factors. Well, for more on this now, let's bring in the SABC News International Editor, Sophie Mokoena. Good afternoon, Sophie. Thanks for making time for us.
Thank you.
What do we make on the utterances attacking the Federal Reserve Chairperson, Jerome Powell?
Well, much as Jerome Powell was appointed by President Trump during his first term, when he really wanted Janet Yellen out, now it looks like the relationship has soured because he has pressurized the chair, the Fed chair, to cut the interest rates. And he has pointed out that at this moment it's something that he can't do. And what added to this is when President Trump yesterday met the Prime Minister of Italy, he spoke to the media about how Jerome Powell has behaved, and also making an example that the ECB was able to cut interest rates and the bank in America is not doing the same, and therefore indicating that it looks like he's not taking the issue of the economy of the US seriously, because according to Trump, he believes that the economy is performing well, everything is under control, but the Fed chair is not interpreting the situation the same as Donald Trump, and also indicating that perhaps the sooner he leaves office, the better. But he can't push him out because the central bank in the United States of America is independent. And when he appointed him, he thought he was going to toe the line then. And now it looks like he has lost confidence in the operations of the Fed's chair in terms of managing issues in the United States of America. But there is nothing that he can do. He cannot fire him.
The other important issue that he touched on is the Russia-Ukraine war. Is the United States losing hope in facilitating the peace process?
Yesterday, it was clear that President Trump is beginning to be impatient in terms of bringing the two warring factions together. He pointed out that it looks like both President Zelensky and President Vladimir Putin of Russia are not willing to agree to a solution, and therefore his tone yesterday was a tone of someone who is beginning to lose hope in terms of getting this right. And this morning we saw the Secretary of State of the United States of America, Marco Rubio, speaking to the media, indicating that if the two parties don't agree, America will have no option but to stop its attempts or efforts to ensure that there's mediation and the peace process is started. And this comes at a time where we expect the president of Ukraine to visit South Africa next week. And perhaps it will be clearer next week when media gets an opportunity to engage with President Zelensky, what are the sticking points. But what we have seen in recent days is that Russia is continuing to pump the Ukraine borders, and also a lot of damage this week, and also Zelensky saying that it looks like Russia has escalated its attacks, and therefore the situation is quite difficult in Ukraine as we speak, and therefore the latest development speaks to, it looks like the two parties are far from each other.
On to US-South Africa relations, and as you know, former Deputy Finance Minister SABC Jonas's appointment as SA envoy to the US was announced, and then no sooner did historic utterances he made against Trump come out raising questions about the appointment. What is the way forward here?
Well, the media was able to engage the president's spokesperson, who indicated that, yes, those utterances were made, as you can see, but it was 4 or 5 years ago at that time when President Trump lost elections and President Biden won elections, and that these were personal views and they are not relevant at this moment. The other issue perhaps South Africa would argue is that when you look at people who are surrounding President Trump, many of them have made similar utterances in different shape or form in terms of their pronouncements. They have all attacked President Trump, particularly when he was campaigning during the first term and during his presidency and when he was out of office. All of them, most senior, you can look whether you're talking the Vice President, the Secretary of State, Elon Musk, many have made such utterances, including the nominee for certain positions have made such utterances. And therefore the view is that it will be difficult to find a person who has never criticized President Trump. But we don't know. At the end of the day, it will be up to America to decide whether they will open doors for the envoy to come and engage the Americans. But what we are hearing from the Americans is that the best way for South Africa to go about this is to speak to the embassy and the diplomats here in South Africa and come up with a way forward, perhaps a document that speaks to the deal that you will engage Americans on, not to lecture Trump in terms of the national politics of South Africa, rebutting what people are saying, but go there with a deal. And before you do that, engage the officials here at the embassy so that whatever you take to the United States of America, it's something that the embassy here has been able to contribute to make it easy for whoever will be in America to negotiate with the Americans to be able to put something on the table. We know that's the view of South Africa, that you can only go to America and engage the administration when you have issues that you are going to put on the table in terms of the negotiations as it relates to trade. But we also saw the second in charge of the embassy, who took office some few weeks ago, engaging with the former South African President David Green, met former President Thabo Mbeki, and I think former President Thabo Mbeki was able to take him into confidence in terms of many thorny issues that are related to South Africa and the relationship with the United States of America. So those engagements, it might not be government officials, but any South Africans who keep engaging with Americans, you are able to share information. And the fact that it was the second in charge, he has a sense in terms of what's happening and what are the issues and why South Africa is having certain positions and stance on certain issues. Therefore, that helps also, because when they engage government officials and the envoy, he would be having some background from neutral or independent people who are not in government. And therefore, I think that negotiations and the engagements between South Africa and the US will continue. It will take time, but I think the country is moving in the right direction. And what is important now is to see how the envoy will be received. For now, South Africa stands firm that SABC Jonas is the envoy.
Thank you very much, SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena, sharing her valuable insights into the USA and all those stories we've been covering this week.